This episode is brought to you by State Farm. Knowing you could be saving money for the things you really want, like that dream house or ride, is a great feeling. That's why the State Farm Personal Price Plan can help you save when you choose to bundle home and auto. Bundling, just another way to save with the Personal Price Plan. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state.
Now more than ever, Lowe's knows you don't just want a low price, you want the lowest price. And with our lowest price guarantee, you can count on us for competitive prices on all your home improvement projects. If you find a qualifying lower price somewhere else on the same item, we'll match it. Lowe's, we help, you save. Price match applies to same item, current price at qualifying retailers. Exclusions and terms apply. Learn how we'll match price at lowes.com/lowest price guarantee.
Unfiltered discussions, unexpected guests. No topic is off limits, from sex and relationships to the human condition, personal anxieties, and so much more. The only talk show of its kind in the world. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Hello and welcome and happy Wednesday. Here's a trick that'll make you the most popular kid in school. Send your friends an emoji with a camel. Say, it's hump day. You can use one hump or two. You're welcome. It's tips like that that keep this show relevant and fresh. On tonight's program, we will have on a mentalist, a mysterious guest who claims to have the power to read your thoughts using deception for mind games, psychic stunts, and perhaps reality-bending weirdness. So we'll have a mentalist on to mess with your heads and mess with my head, a skeptic, halfway through the hour. Then it's Wednesday night, which means it's Therapy Thursdays on a Wednesday. For those dealing with young kids, grandparents, badly behaved parents can take advantage of them, forcing childcare on them and using their kids as hostage. Tips for dealing with situations like that is what we'll cover in broadcasting's only mental health content intended for a Thursday that airs on a Wednesday. Let's dive in.
Want to be part of The Last Show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. Most shows deliver serious news that you can use. As a point of differentiation, we give you news you can't use. The Last Show, with David Cooper and special foreign correspondent, Tony Five.
And in special superhero news, Superman, the Man of Steel, a man who some people would describe as super, was found soaring not over Metropolis, but over London. And we are joined by special foreign correspondent Tony Five, who has a master's in superhero studies, to discuss. Tony, welcome in.
David, is it a bird? Is it a plane? Is it a train? Of course it's a train. You're in a railway station. What else do you think it's going to be? There ain't going to be a bird there because you can't get in. How is a plane going to get in there? What a stupid question. Of course it's a train. What else would it be? It's a train station. I'm waiting for a train to go somewhere. Why are you asking me whether it's going to be a train or a plane? It's a train.
Tony, can we get back on track here? Superman was found...
Exactly, on track. It was a train. Carry on, my friend.
You're derailing the story.
See, David? On track.
All right, fine. All tracks lead to roads.
To London.
London. Okay, so it was a publicity stunt for the new Superman thing.
Yeah, David. Superhero summer, David. Superhero summer, my friend. We've got a Fantastic Four coming out. As you know, dear listener, I am a huge superhero fan. I love Superman, the Man of Steel. Not just what I was nicknamed when I was a kid at school. I love Superman, and as part of his big promotional tour of the world, he's released, I think, next week, Friday the 11th or something. They basically put an 11-foot sculpture of David Corrensweet, who plays Superman, in the Forks of the Shard, which is London's tallest building, and it was amazing.
I don't think you could say Forks of the Shard on radio. That sounds somehow profane.
Okay, well, David, I've been banned for lesser things. It's fine.
True that. So... are you excited to see the Man of Steel flying above your hometown?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I went down to London just to see it.
You went down to London just to see
to look up.
Just to look up at some statue between two poles in a building.
Yeah, and it's like 250 meters in the air. Like, it's so high, so you can only really see a dot. But it was worth it.
All right. Are the people of London happy, or are they just doing what British people do and just rudely looking away and seeming annoyed?
People in London really hate everything and everybody. It would really need to be a real man standing there for 24 hours, held up at the Shard for English people to be in any way impressed. I feel that the English have a very an underlying sense of an unforgiving nature of impress me, go on, impress me. Whereas I find other people from other countries are very easily impressed with things. You go to America, Canada, people are appreciative of things, just the effort. Whereas English people, by definition, oh, look, there's a man of steel. Is he really made of steel? Could we get a material analysis on him? Oh, he can fly. Can he fly? Really? Can he show us how he flies? Why? Is he paying tax on those flying air miles? Like that sort of thing. I guess we can be quite aggressively over-complimentary. So, yeah.
And you like tea. My ex-wife was once dating a British man before we met, and she said when they would fight at home, the first thing he would say is, we can't fight. I got to put the kettle on.
Yes.
And I've never heard a more British story in my life. The idea that you could not get into a row with your partner unless you had tea.
No, of course not. You have to have tea. Tea's like it's like the universal lubricant, isn't it? Like you always got to have it around you for anger, for grief, for the best things in life, the worst things in life. Yeah.
Tony, last night you were not doing so hot.
Yeah, everything's going well. Don't worry, dear listener, everything's fine. Tony's good. But you get some wobbles now and again. And I just had this really weird spiraling. I think it was, it's been very hot in the UK, so my sleep hasn't been great. I'd gone back to work for the first time in like 9 months for my normal, non-insanity job. So I think a lot of these pressures kind of built up. And I was like, I should just call David and just say hi, just to hear a normal voice and talk about anything.
Normal? Normal, Tony?
Well, yeah, I know. It's a stretch, isn't it? I didn't, because it was quite late UK time. Which would have been sort of late-ish US time.
Yeah, I would have been up. You're 5-6 hours ahead? I would have been up.
Yeah, I guess so. But I was like, you ever get into these whirlwind thoughts of like, oh my God, this is not good, and I'm not good at this, and this is all going to fall apart. And I can, if I sort of sit back and think, I think I'd had the news on, and it was just this constant barrage of all the things that are going wrong at the time. Which is why I like to listen to kind of more offbeat news, the Superman stuff and like hippopotamuses going into people's houses. I love stuff like that. And so it was just a kind of what I should have done. But I felt better. And I think the next time we'll sit down and have a nice chat together, I'll tell you about how my first time at a new therapist went as well.
Oh, you went to a new therapist today?
I did. He was like unbelievably young. He must have been like 4.
It's amazing that he has his full licensing.
Correct. It's amazing. I mean, I'm so much older, and then there's this kid, and the first one is kind of getting to know you. It's not really therapy yet. It's kind of talking about what you were going to talk about and what sort of...
what goals. It's intake, I think, is the process.
What method he uses. Does he use like CBT, or does he use like DHL or FBI? I don't know.
UPS.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was quite interesting. But he was a nice chap. He's very young, and sort of I've opened myself up. I've gone into this particular session of counselling, which is a brand new therapist and a new facility. Very open-minded, like with the will to want to be helped.
I don't know what to say other than the occasional night where you're up with existential dread is a normal thing. It's my same advice that I gave to you the other day. Don't pathologize it. One bad night where the world's crashing in on you doesn't mean that you're going to be in a prolonged episode of anxiety. A good night's sleep can be the antidote to that. And it sounds like it was.
Can. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people that are listening to us now, we are their antidote. Or maybe the cause of what's happening to them. And I think, well, who would I listen to? I don't know. Like, if you were feeling like that, if David, put your shoe on the other hand, who would you listen to instead of people listening to you?
Who do I listen to when I'm down?
Yeah, who's your go-to?
It's more like I find music therapeutic. I don't know. Is that not the answer you're looking for?
No, I mean, like, who do you listen to?
When I'm down, I don't know.
Yeah.
I got a bunch of different playlists. I really like the Talking Heads.
Okay, wow. Oh, you like the Talking Heads?
I listen to a lot of jazz because I'm nerdy like that.
You are.
And annoying like that.
Do you like Theophilus P. Munch? What's his name?
Thelonious Monk. Yeah, of course.
That's the one. Do you like him?
Theophilus P. Munch.
He was a Greek guy I used to know growing up. Yeah. Same difference. He helped me.
All right. When we come back with Tony 5, foreign correspondent in London, England, we will discuss how you toast your nuts. No further explanation given.
Or provided or wanted.
This is why we're the best in the biz. We'll be back.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
With a Venmo debit card, you can Venmo more than just your friends. You can use your balance in so many ways. You can Venmo everything. Need gas? You can Venmo this. How about snacks? You can Venmo that. Your favorite band's merch? You can Venmo this. Or their next show? You can Venmo that. Visit venmo.me/debit to learn more.
You can Venmo this, or you can Venmo that. You can Venmo this, or you can Venmo that. You can Venmo.
The Venmo MasterCard is issued by the Bancorp Bank N.A. pursuant to license by MasterCard International Incorporated. Card may be used everywhere MasterCard is accepted. Venmo purchase restrictions apply.
Tony 5 is here. He's not Tony 6. He's not Tony 4. He's not Tony 3. He's Tony 5. I'm David Cooper. This is the last show, and Tony is our foreign correspondent in London, England. Tony, hello.
Good day, wonderful world. Good day, wonderful people. Good day, David. Now, am I correct in assuming you are 39?
I am, yes, 39. I'm not 38. I'm not 40. I'm 39.
Could I assume also that during your 20s and 30s, it was the age of debauchery, my friend? It was sex, it was drugs, it was rock and roll, it was cutting your hair short, it was, running out of restaurants, not paying. Is that true? Am I?
Some of the above was true. Certainly, I drank a lot. I partied a lot. I'm now sober. Yeah, my got divorced. I mean, I didn't.
Yeah,
it was rough. You know.
I mean, it was rough, but it was also kind of living, right?
It was a bit thrilling.
Do you want to tell the listeners what we spoke about before we go on air? I mean, you're talking to two hip. I mean, I'm an on the street foreign correspondent black guy. I'm there, my fingers on the pulse of everything. You know, I'm living it. What did we speak about, David? Did we talk about something edgy, something right on edge? Did we talk about that before we came, dear listener? What do you think we talked about?
At the commercial break, I was a little hungry.
And I timed it. So why you kept looking at me? Because I was looking at my watch. We spoke for 7 minutes about what topic, David?
I think it was closer to 5, but cashews.
Yeah, and your ability to take them out of a packet, re-toast them, relabel it roasted nuts or toasted nuts, and with such a commitment to this topic.
If there's anything fun that we're going to discuss, I want to save it for the show. So at the commercial break, I just talk about the mundane stuff. And I was explaining to Tony, if you buy roasted cashews...
There you go. See, now you can understand how ridiculous it is. If you buy and what you can't see is I can see his face. He's so committed to it. He really believes in this topic. It's beautiful.
If you buy roasted cashews, I was saying they don't roast them enough. So you have to buy them raw.
It's big cashew, David. They're saving on the money, mate. They're saving on the money.
I don't know why. Maybe the average consumer doesn't like nuts taken further along the roasting journey. But you can roast nuts like twice as much as they come roasted. And then they're nice and browned and tasty. So I buy the raw cashews, I throw them in the oven for 15 minutes or whatever, and then they're fully roasted. And then I put them back in the bag that says unroasted cashews, and I use a Sharpie to cross off the letter U and N, so my girlfriend knows I roasted them.
Other pens are available, of course. We're not sponsored by Sharpie. Carry on.
Not yet. Anyway, I was explaining all of this to Tony over 5 minutes, and he seemed interested at the time.
I'm interested by everything. I just find it very funny that you've got almost like a routine about things. Maybe I do as well, but I just find everything like that quite funny. Just like it amuses me.
Anyway, How are you doing, Tony, more importantly?
I'm doing well. I had something on my mind. There are some things that are very specific to a region, a specific area, and something popped up in my mind the other day. Now, when I was in Albania, and I've seen it in the States, you're sometimes in your car and you're at a set of traffic lights and you get some people who are like homeless or maybe begging for money or so on, or sometimes they're selling things.
Squeegee sometimes. They're squeegeeing the car. Yeah,
Squeegee guys, correct. So that's kind of a universal thing,
Sure.
right? And I was in Albania and there was a guy very nichely selling CDs.
Oh.
And I thought to myself, at some stage, he's going to be out of business because there are not many people that have CDs in their car anymore. It's mainly streaming services and DAB radios and stuff. It would almost be like the person who was going to be selling tape decks on the side of the road.
Yeah. Like compact discs. Yeah.
Compact discs. Yeah. So like he was selling, I can only imagine, ripped off music CDs at the traffic lights.
But like what music and...
No idea. I didn't stop to talk to him. And he was Albanian, so probably Albanian music, because it happened a couple of weeks ago. And then I thought, now, do you remember, and no, did this happen to you either in the States or in America or anywhere in like that level of the world where you had, and it's not racist, it was usually people from the Far East who would walk around to different places selling pornography on DVDs?
No.
Right, so this is an actual thing in the UK. You would find these guys who would walk around with backpacks just selling like pirated movies, pornography a lot of the time, on CDs, and they would be called like the porno guys. And they would just be at random places in all my childhood.
Why did you have to stipulate that it was not racist? That made it seem racist.
There was never any black people. There was never any white people. There were any Jewish people. And nobody knew why. It was very strange.
You're very strange. No, we didn't have a porn guy. Ethnicity of any ethnicity.
Oh, I wonder what they're doing now. I worry for them. I worry for those people that have had like chimney sweeps. What do they do now?
They still have chimneys, Tony. There's people still light fires in their home.
Really?
Yeah, it's more like now it's like a rich person niche thing.
Yeah, but it's becoming like, okay, I'll tell you why we're thinking that. Again, very banal, but my mum now, she doesn't have a landline phone anymore because they're digitizing all the landlines. So in order for you to phone out, you have to do it through your Wi-Fi. So my mum asked the general question, what happens if there's a power cut? And I said, well, you need a mobile. And she said, but not all old people have mobiles. I said, well, then you die. And I was very gentle about it.
I guess then the porno guy and the Albanian illegal CD seller, they all die. Everyone dies.
This is what I'm thinking, but what do? Do they retrain? Is there a place where all these sort of lost jobs gather to become like, retraining something else like ChatGPT is? That would be amazing, right?
I always think about, have you ever seen an old TV show where they show like a call get put through in the 60s? Well, maybe even before the 60s, the 30s, the 40s, and the women on roller skates with cables connecting the telephone calls manually.
Yes, the switchboard operators.
Switchboard operators. That seemed like such a fun job. And what happened to the switchboard operators?
And there was loads of them, right? And at some stage in life, this is what blows my mind, that there was one woman somewhere, or man, in the world.
The last switchboard operator.
The last one.
Wow.
Who must have pushed it in. Isn't that mind-blowing, David?
It is. I'm trying to think of what other jobs would be like the last of them,
Well, it's going to be, I don't know. Do you still use faxes out there? I guess faxes are still used in certain areas, but I guess fax machines are going to be going on the way out.
Yeah, I feel like governments have random faxes somewhere or something like that.
But are people still using dial-up modems anywhere in the world, do you think?
Yeah, probably.
Do you think?
Yeah.
Like 56K mobile?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe not millions, but yeah, there's probably people out there using, it's their only option. They have telephone connectivity and that's it. And they live in a remote community and they have dial-up. Yeah, probably.
But like, there is somebody somewhere, the last person to ever used Alta Vista or Yahoo Messenger. There's got to be somebody, and I want to know who these people are. Like, did they ever know they were the last ever person? There's this wonderful meme, I think TikTok, where it says, at one stage of your life, there was the last time you played out with your friends and, you're all out there together that last summer or that. And it's a very warm memory to have. It's that, and you never really appreciate that last ever moment, you know?
There is probably, because it has a cult following at this point, but in Bend, Oregon, in the United States, there's a final Blockbuster. There's one Blockbuster franchise that never closed. There's a documentary about it, which I haven't seen, but I hear it's quite good.
Okay.
I feel like we should go on a show trip there.
I would love that. See, I'm as you know, I'm a real. I love melancholy. I love nostalgia and things like that. You know, I think I really missed that whole episodes of where you'd go to Blockbuster Video and it'd be a whole evening looking around, arguing with your partner about what you're going to get and then going up, whether they had it in stock. Sometimes they never had it. They tease you, right? And then you'd go home and it was a whole thing. And now you could spend an hour flicking through Netflix, not picking anything.
I think, side note, and I should pitch this to Netflix and I should patent it before I do because it's a great idea. They should have, you know, there's like the cheapest plan with ads. It's like $6 a month or whatever. They should have a 99-cent a month plan and it just lets you browse the titles because I feel like that's what most people do on Netflix. They never watch anything. They just get to browse and watch trailers. And for that, they should charge $1 a month. I would buy that plan.
Like virtual Netflix. So you're basically, it's a Netflix simulator.
Netflix sim. Not really. Just Netflix browse around and waste your time, but can't watch show later.
Like a sim, like The Sims. Because you're not having a real life in Sims, you're simulating having a life. So it's a Netflix simulator. I like it.
Not quite. But Tony, you know what else is not quite? You. Because I love you. That made no sense. Tony 5, our foreign correspondent in London, England. A Mentalist to read your thoughts up next. I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show.
At Sierra, discover top workout gear at incredible prices, which might lead to another discovery. Your headphones haven't been connected this whole time. Awkward. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
Taste the forbidden fruit of knowledge. The Last Show with David Cooper.
I am here with someone who is not your average entertainer. He's a mentalist, a collector, a comedic writer, an occasional pro wrestling manager. You might know him as one half of the Sentimentalists or from appearances on America's Got Talent and Penn and Teller Fool Us, where he blew minds and baffled the best. Please welcome the unusual, the charming, the possibly mysterious Mysterion, the mind reader. Mysterion, welcome to the show. I'm really excited to chat.
Hey, thanks for having me. This is going to be a lot of fun.
I am a skeptic, but I'm always open-minded, and I want to know a little bit about what a mentalist does.
So a mentalist uses 5 senses to create the illusion of 6 senses. The Oxford Dictionary definition of a mentalist is somebody who uses deception to create psychic power or somebody with extreme mental illness. So I don't know which one applies to me.
I hope the first one.
We'll hope the first. Essentially, we use psychology to twist reality and make things look a little bit on the psychic side. Everyone can do what we do with the right training. A child can do it with 30 years practice, but we don't have 30 years. So I'm going to ask you right now to focus on a chalkboard and imagine.
I have got to stop you. I have aphantasia. I can't picture anything in my mind.
You can't picture anything in your mind.
I lack a visual imagination, but I can call up a chalkboard on Google if you want.
Oh, wow. So I tell you what then, just tell me a number between 1 and 1,000. This is going to be a first.
1,000?
You want number 1,000?
Yeah, 1 in 1,000. The highest number is the best number. Don't tell me you wrote that on the paper.
That's what was already on the paper.
Oh, you didn't. You didn't. He did. Edward, you don't have video on the radio. How did he do it? I don't know how he did it.
So there you have it.
Okay, can I choose a different number? 500? That's not on the paper. Uh-oh,
no, it's not, but it was in your mind.
It was. That was amazing.
Thank you.
I don't know how you did that, and it makes me worry, and I feel a little bit insane because I'm a skeptic and I don't believe in psychic things. Wow. We're on the radio. People can't see it, but you just showed me a piece of paper with 1,000 on it.
I think your reaction speaks volumes. A lot of people, they'll come into the show and they'll have doubts that what I'm doing is happening to the individuals in the audience and it's not set up. I've had people come up to me after the show and go, well, that was fun and all, but you set it up, or you must have known that guy or that woman that came up on stage. You had arranged it. And I have a guarantee that no, I've never arranged anything with an audience member. I travel around so often that if I had to set it up with every show I did, I would go absolutely bonkers. There's no possible way without getting caught. And like I said, I do shows all over the place. And people come in with this idea that they can challenge me too, and I'm always open to that. I always love the challenge because it creates an opportunity for me to really pull the wool over the eyes of somebody who almost wants to come in and have not a confrontation, but they want to confront the mentalist because they don't think that type of thing is possible. And it is very possible.
I do think it's possible. I just refuse to believe it's supernatural.
You don't have to believe it's supernatural.
And that's what I like about what you do. It's when people are psychics and they have these deceptive skills like you and they pass it off as supernatural. That's where it starts to irk me. I believe you can do it. I don't know how you did it, but I know that you just did it, and that's kind of amazing. It's an amazing act. And yeah, I'm more on like the mentalist performances are really fun and compelling. I believe they're happening. But I just don't believe that, fiery demons whispered into your ears, that kind of thing.
No, that only happens at 3 a.m.
That only happens in your different performances.
Yeah, exactly.
That was really, I'm still a little beside myself. It was very well done. I don't know how you did it, but I assume years of practice is how you did it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I've been doing this for a very long time. I remember watching The Amazing Kreskin on television a long time ago when I was a little boy. And he used to have his paycheck hidden in a room, and he would go find it. And if he didn't find it within a certain amount of time, they would donate it to a charity. And let's say the charities never really got many donations because he would find it constantly. And I saw him on television once in Manhattan, and he had his paycheck hidden somewhere in the city of Manhattan. And then he went out and he, used his ability to locate this paycheck. And, he was holding on to the individual's arm that hid the paycheck. And I realized, well, the person must be doing something with their arm to tell him where this paycheck is. And that's exactly what was going on. He was just kind of reading their muscle. Mm-hmm. And I thought, this is a real superpower. This is something like, I could possibly do this. It's not flying. It's not seeing through walls, but it is almost as good. And I started to dabble in it and get involved and learning a little bit and playing with it at school and kind of keeping it on the low. And then when I started to work in burlesque, my friend is a burlesque dancer, and I was helping her put the shows together. I wasn't part of the show.
Well, there's a long tradition in burlesque of like having either a stand-up comedian or a performer between the acts.
Absolutely. She said, you want to come on the show and do it? And I said, absolutely, I'll do it. And I'm thinking, how am I going to get up there and compete with half-naked ladies? And I got up and people were blown out of the water. And, that was kind of the beginning because the Toronto Star was at the event. And they called me the next day and said, we want to do a piece on you. And I went, okay. And that just sort of overnight, people were booking and calling, and I was selling out. And then started to do corporate and television, and the rest is history.
Bar mitzvahs, weddings, parties, seances, funerals, quinceañeras, all of it.
Hey, listen, man, I'll tell you something. Bar mitzvahs, I'll tell you something. I did 2 bar mitzvahs this past weekend. To this day, I will always do bar mitzvahs. I get paid.
I wish I'd had you in mind.
Bar mitzvah. Yeah.
Our budget wasn't quite that high. We just had a DJ who kept on playing 90s hits.
Oh, no.
It's funny. Like if I were to design a trick like that naively, I'd have like 50 places in my room where I have a number. There's a couple special cases, like 1001, where you just have it on the paper or whatever. And then if they don't choose a number that I have hidden in the room, I start making them do like divided by 2 tricks. And eventually we'll get a number or a coincidence if you have enough things around your room, and you'll pick one.
Well, there's lots of different effects like that. There are means to have multiple outs. And what I find is that when it's something so direct, it hits hard. It just hits so hard.
I kind of know how you might build a trick like that loosely, but I'm still surprised you showed me a piece of paper immediately.
All right, tell you what. I can't do anything with this. I just did something to this off screen. I'm holding up a watch, a wristwatch.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Tell me a time of day, hour and minute, not lunchtime, hour and minute.
Oh, I hate you. 3:15.
Okay. I know why you picked that time.
Why?
Because that was the time I got home from school and I was able to put on cartoons and I was able to watch G.I. Joe, and I'm a big toy fan, and that is the exact time. I'm turning it around right now, and look what it says.
Yeah, but it could be a gimmick watch. You press something
what gimmick watch? It's just a watch.
Yes. If I had a gimmick watch that did the right time somehow, I would respond to someone accusing me by saying, what gimmick watch? Having said that, it was an amazing trick, and you picked 3:15, and I don't know how you did it.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I can use your watch in a real world environment, and I can do it with people's artifacts. And I think that's really the difference between a lot of people. They'll see what I do and they'll say, well, is it magic? Well, it's a cousin of magic.
Yeah.
And in being a cousin of magic, of course, there's techniques, but I can come into a room with nothing and kind of use what's in the room. And that's where I think there's that what the heck moment where you go, but that was my wallet. And how did he know the image on my phone or on their watch? I've truly done that with other people's watches. I've pulled out the pin and stuck it to a time, put it in their hand, and kapow.
I'm here with Mysterion, the mind reader. He's performing at New York at the end of the month, at City Winery on July 29th, also at Philly at the House of Magic on August 2nd. We'll continue our chat about being a mentalist. I'm kind of playing both sides here. I'm skeptical, but also amazed that he chose the exact time I said and the exact number I said earlier in the interview. We'll be back with more of Mysterion in a moment.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
The last show with David Cooper. Procrastinate your life away with us.
I am here with a mentalist who's one half blowing my mind and one half tickling my spidey senses of skepticism. His name is Mysterion, the mind reader. He just predicted what number I would say, what time on a clock I said. Mysterion, you're kind of blowing my mind here. Welcome back to the show.
Well, thanks for having me back on, not kicking me off by this point.
You are wearing short sleeves, but do you have any other tricks up your sleeve today?
I do. I'm going to go for something that everybody hates. The most
Me?
despised trick.
Oh.
A card trick.
Oh boy, okay. This is going to be fun to do on the radio.
A card trick on the radio. Think about this, guys.
It's going to go great. I'm going to get an award for this one.
This is going to go phenomenally. So I don't even shuffle the pack. As you can see, they are in order. Okay. I just keep it that way to make life easy because I don't have any dexterity with my hands. My prestidigitation is, it's awful. But I do have 52 options that are familiar. So if I asked you right now to tell me a card, statistically speaking, most people would pick the Ace of Spades or the Queen of Hearts. But I don't want you to pick one of those two. I want you to pick a different one and tell me which one you want. Whatever one you want, we're going to take it out.
I'm trying to pick the least likely one to really, really trip you up. Okay. I got it. I picked one.
Say it out loud.
3 of Hearts.
The 3. Okay, now that you just did it to yourself, didn't you?
Next trick, yeah.
No, the truth is that you did it to yourself. There's the 3 of Hearts right here. I mean, that's not that big a deal. I just went through the pack and I found it, right?
So he's got a deck. It's mostly shuffled, except for the 6 of Hearts and the 7 of Hearts are for some reason on the top and bottom. And now he's selected the 3 of Hearts for me out of this deck.
And I want to show you something really crazy. I want you to see the back of the 3. What color is the back of the 3?
It's bleu.
It's bleu. That is Canadian for blue. But if I show you the remainder of the pack, you'll see they're all red. It's a red back deck.
Pretty cool.
And you randomly chose the one that was the odd duck.
Yeah. It's cool. It's a cool trick. The card I said was blue.
I'm going to tell you why you picked that, though. And you're going to be kind of more skeptical. That is actually an extremely common choice that people pick. That is the fourth most common card.
I Googled least common cards to choose during a card trick.
And that came up. That's completely wrong. It goes ace, queen of hearts, seven of hearts, three of hearts.
Why? Is it people trying to trip you up always end up in the same place?
They end up in the same place.
So I got to think, but then if I'm not trying to not trip you up to trick you, I'm also trying to trip you up. I probably end up in, there's no winning here.
Unless you're trying to trip me up and I'm trying to trip you up in return, and then we end up tripping up each other.
The truth is, as a former engineer before I went into broadcasting, or as my mother describes the story as me hating money, which is a whole other discussion. I knew from my background that picking random numbers is actually incredibly difficult, and humans are very, very bad at it. If I ask somebody to pick random numbers and then I use math to like generate random numbers, or I use atmospheric noise, or the distribution of stars in the sky, or I use any truly random thing in nature, the random thing in nature is going to be way more random than the person trying. And I wonder if you can exploit that in your tricks.
Absolutely. I mean, that whole concept right there is, 90% of what it is that I do. People believing they have full free choice when in reality they are pigeonholed into making decisions rooted in common choices, rooted in how we think as humans, rooted in just what we have around us. You're not going to go. You nailed it on the head. And even when I try to do that and I come up with random ideas, if for example, building an effect for a show, I'll find myself even going online and trying to look for, like what you just did, the least common choices, because even my mind will go to what's familiar. If I'm asked to think of a number, I'm going to think of components of a phone number, components of an address, maybe my mother's phone number, or the address of the house I grew up in. And then it just sort of starts kind of just being small variations of those numbers. Knowing that, I can have a better idea of what somebody else is thinking.
I wonder what the most random number is, all right? It's an oxymoron. Every number is as random as the other.
What is the most uncommon number when asked? The most uncommon number between 1 and 1,000, I'll tell you this right now. The most common is 999.
What number could I have chosen earlier in the program when you said pick a number between 1 and 1,000, and then I said 1,000, you showed me the pad, it said 1,000. What could I have chosen to trip you up, and how would you have dealt with it?
40.
What about 42, the answer to life, the universe, and everything?
Exactly. I was going to say, people, a number like that never comes up. 40, 12, I don't ever have. Usually people go to that mid zone. They'll go from they'll say 500. They'll try to get me right down the middle. Anything that isn't, you went right to the extreme. You did exactly what I wanted you to do. Yeah, what would I have done? I would have turned off the phone. I mean, what would I have done?
It's funny. I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to go to the upper bound. He won't be prepared for that. And of course, you prepare for all scenarios, I assume. What is a time in your career where you're most proud of having fooled someone, or the most amazing trick you've done?
Well, there's a couple of instances, but I have to say being on Penn and Teller Fool Us was probably the big one. At that time, I was in a duo act, and we went on and we had the opportunity to present our original effect to Penn and Teller on the show. And we had the audience draw pictures. The pictures were collected. They were dropped into one of those wind machines. I went into the wind machine. My partner, Steffi, was outside. I think she was blindfolded or had her eyes closed. And I just caught one of the pictures out of thin air. I was the one who was blindfolded, actually. And I caught it, came out, didn't open it. And she went into her trance, drew the picture. And then when we opened up mine, it matched what she had drawn. And we even had the person in the audience who drew it stand up and acknowledge that this was an audience-drawn image. We had no control over who was in the audience. We didn't even know when we were going to be called on stage. The way they had it set up is you just wait in holding, and they rotate audiences out from ticket buyers who are coming in at random. So there's no way you have any ability to mess with the audience on that show. And so that really did the job. It really stuck a bit of a spoke in the wheel because it was so different than what anyone else had ever done on the show up to that point. They guessed numerous methods. When you see the episode online, I think they say 3 or 4 of them, but they went through about 6 or 7, and not coming close to what the answer was. And after the fact, when the answer was revealed in private, it was almost obvious how it was done. But it was so well constructed, and there weren't any real red herrings or anything thrown in, but there were subtle red herrings. Without giving away with what we did, there were these subtleties that we played with to kind of speak the magic talk to the magic community. And I had people after the show call me and go, I noticed you used this, or I noticed you used that. But then when everything was revealed, those tools had nothing to do with the trick.
Oh, you were trying to misdirect to the magicians trying to analyze your trick.
Yeah. And I was doing it on purpose to sort of go, you don't need to have these props if you just put a little bit of thought into what you're doing in a different way. You don't have to rely on these props always. You can. I'm not saying don't use them. I'm just saying that they're not always necessary. You can come in with an original, fresh idea and still have a banger of an effect. And so we got the trophy. I mean, it's right there behind me. You can see it. I know the listeners can't see it, but it's right there. And that would have to be the number one, the big one.
Mysterion the Mind Reader, check him out in New York City at the City Winery on July 29th and in Philly at the House of Magic on August 1st and 2nd. Mysterion, this has been a great joy. Thanks for chatting to me about being a mentalist.
Absolutely, and I'll see you in my favorite place, the future.
Up next, what happens when parents blackmail grandparents using their children and access to those kids as hostages? I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show.
Hey, business owners, we know you know the importance of maximizing every dollar. With the Delta SkyMiles Reserve Business American Express card, you can make your expenses work just as hard as you. From afternoon coffee runs to stocking office supplies and even team dinners, you can earn miles on all your business expenses. Plus, you can earn 110,000 bonus miles for a limited time through July 16th. The Delta SkyMiles Reserve Business Card. If you travel, you know. Minimum spending requirements and terms apply. Offer ends 7/16/25.
When your therapist won't take your calls anymore, there's always The Last Show with David Cooper.
It is Therapy Thursdays on a Wednesday. We are here to discuss what to do when you are lost in Spain and have your passport stolen and you and your significant other are fighting. A very relatable problem that happens to everyone. We are joined by expert in family and marital therapy, social worker Gary Direnfeld. Gary, what a pleasure it is.
We got to get your partner on with you when we're going to do these couple discussions.
I don't know if you remember how we met like 4 or 5 years ago now, Gary. I had this crazy idea. Okay, set the stage. I was working an overnight radio show. I was working like 12 hours a day. I'd wake up as a zombie at like, 2 p.m. I'd work straight through to 4 a.m. I'd be so wired I couldn't get to sleep after my show, so I'd go to bed at 6 and rinse and repeat. And I never saw my girlfriend.
Great for a relationship.
I don't know how my relationship lasted that year, but my girlfriend and I got in this bad argument, and me being the psycho that I am was like, let's resolve this on the radio. And my producer's like, maybe you should have a therapist before you have your girlfriend and you argue on the show. So she reached out to you. I'd never met you, and you came on the show to moderate a fight between Miranda, my girlfriend, and me. And that was how we met.
Humble beginnings.
Anyway, crisis while traveling. I don't know. We just kind of started getting along when things went badly, which is funny because at the beginning of the trip, we were bickering, and I feel like this is something people don't talk about. Travel is stressful.
Yeah.
You're away from your home base. You don't get to go to the bathroom in your home toilet, which already is an irritant.
At the time you need to.
Yes. And like flights, hotels, dealing with people that you can't speak to because you don't understand the language. Like travel isn't all fun. It can be stressful. And we were bickering up until the point crisis happened. And then we started getting along, which is very strange.
Oh, you came together under fire.
Yes. Yes, we did. Discuss. No, you had all kinds of questions for me about the trip.
Well, yeah, because we were supposed to be, taping the other week, and I get this cryptic message that says, I've been robbed or I've lost and I've had my passport taken and now I can't leave the country. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what the heck has gone on there? So what's the story? What's the backstory to that?
I mean, we went to a restaurant. We left our luggage in the trunk. We didn't think it would get stolen because it was far from Barcelona. It's weird because it's like a safe city, but it's one of the highest petty crime cities in Europe. So like, you're not going to get beaten up, but definitely keep your wallet in your front pocket kind of a place.
Got it.
But we were 2 hours away in a coastal restaurant. I never thought in a million years.
Listen, I'm already glad to know that you were personally safe,
yes,
even though tremendously inconvenienced.
Anyway, we lost all our stuff. We tracked it to a dumpster using an AirTag, so I got back a lot of my clothes, but never. You should have seen this video of me peeling through a Spanish dumpster. Garbage, dirty diapers, food, like rotten food.
What a great commercial, though, for those AirTags.
Yeah, right? We thought we were going to have to, knock on the door of a criminal. We were really worried. Do we have to call the cops? We went to the cop station. They wouldn't go with us to the AirTag. And so that was that. But passport gone. So had to go to the consulate to get an emergency passport. Green card gone. Which means I can't enter the U.S. from,
wow.
I'm able to enter the U.S., but no airline is going to take the liability of letting me on the plane. So the airline wouldn't let me on, so I had to fly to Toronto.
And your passport is Canadian.
Yes, I'm not American.
So now you've got two countries to deal with.
Yes, and the process of getting a document to get into the U.S. when you're not American, first they're like, you got to get your Canadian passport first. So that was 3 days. And then they're like, it's another week. I didn't want to be trapped in Spain. So what I did was I flew to Toronto and then pled my case at the border pre-clearance, whatever.
Smart. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they were rough on me. At one point, they made me feel like they weren't going to let me in. But in the end, they were very nice. And there's a $675 fine for entering the U.S. without the correct documents, which I was really upset about.
And we're in a new world.
Right.
Where when these things go wrong, you don't know what the outcome's going to be.
I mean, that was the old world also, but yes, it's definitely the new world. In the end, they were nice. I showed them the police report. They're like, look, it's not your fault you lost your green card. They actually waived the $675 fee. So they let me in for free. They gave me the document I needed.
Wow.
And now I've applied for a new green card. And yesterday, the website on the government, said the wait time for a new green card was 30 months.
Wow.
Today, it updated to 26 months. So we're looking good. Anyway, it was just a huge inconvenience. But it's funny. You think if you were bickering with your significant other during travel, that it would get worse when crisis happened. But no, it's just
Well, you pulled together under fire. And you know what? You must have done some relationship work to be able to do that. And that's a good sign for a relationship.
Yeah, the $750,000 I've sunk into therapy is finally worth something. Maybe it was less. Maybe it was $740.
Out of curiosity, because I know nothing about green cards and documentation like that. So do you at least have a paper version that if you're crossing the border, you get to show something?
I have an appointment for a special stamp that functions as a green card while I wait for the physical card to come. So yes, I can travel. Okay. In about a week or two, once I get this stamp, everything I'll be fine. I can travel. I can leave the country, re-enter, no problem. It's just a huge inconvenience, and I'm worried about identity theft. But for now, seems like I added one of those credit monitoring things. Seems like there aren't any new credit cards in my name, so I think I'm okay.
I've already had my identity stolen in the past.
What?
And credit card bills rung up.
What?
And Oh, yeah.
That
Oh,
ain't
yeah.
fun.
And I was being chased by, here in Canada, PC Financial for about a year through different credit agencies.
Oh, no.
And I would keep telling them that I've resolved this with PC Financial, but I didn't have anything to prove it.
Oh, boy.
And finally, I got a hold of the powers that be, whole other story at PC Financial. I said, look, I'm going to use the power of social media because I have a strong following on Facebook. And they are curious to know what you're going to do for me and how soon this is going to be resolved. It was resolved in 24 hours once I levied that threat.
Yeah, I feel like even if you don't have the huge following, if you're noisy on social media, you can take notice of someone who can then put you in touch with someone. But it's just sad that that's how you can get, these things resolved.
No kidding. It was a nightmare, but in the end, resolved.
All right, here is our topic for this week after that stream of consciousness journey. Babysitting for family members. It can cause a lot of conflict, can't it?
So I actually love when this topic was thrown out to me, and I'm happy to address it. We are grandparents. We have 3 grandkids, almost 8, almost 6, almost 3. And here's the backstory. When the first one was born, our daughter-in-law gives us a call and says, hey, Dad, hey, Mom, what would you think about giving up a day's work a week and babysitting the little one, the newborn?
For some parents, they would immediately say no. For other parents, it's like, wow, okay, great. I'll give up a portion of my career. I love my grandkids.
Exactly.
Whatever it is, it can come off as demanding and create conflict, especially if your kids really need that babysitting for their lives and career.
Exactly. Right. All this is going on. It is a huge ask. And she asked the same of her parents. Now, there was no demand in this, and she was clear. And they can afford babysitting, just also to be clear and fair. She had said, I want our grandkids to know their grandparents, and the best way to do that is if you take care of them and have time with them. We live an hour's drive away, hour by, the highway. Day's work, huge ask. I can't wait to tell you the end story.
All right. When you demand of your parents-in-law and parents babysitting, it can affect family harmony. That is our topic here with Gary Direnfeld. Therapy Thursdays on a Wednesday continues in just a few moments.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Have you ever spotted McDonald's hot, crispy fries right as they're being scooped into the carton? And time just stands still. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
This is your nightly dose of chaos, confession, and questionable life choices. The last show with David Cooper.
Therapy Thursdays on a Wednesday continues here with expert in family and marital therapy, Gary Direnfeld. Our discussion, babysitting demands of children on their parents. I don't mean the kids being babysat. I mean the parents on the grandparents. Gary, welcome back.
Good to be back. And, before I go to the bottom line of how this went for us, as a social worker in private practice, you got to know that I did get some of these calls where this is an issue and where the grandparent is feeling put upon. And like, if they say no, they're the bad grandparent, and then they're being, they can feel taken advantage of or not appreciated. And, I also hear stories where the grandparent will say, but what are you going to pay me?
Yeah. I mean, this is labor. This is labor that is typically paid for, childcare.
Well, yeah. And listen, me personally, I'm losing a day's work over this. So it is a big ask. And, we tell the parents, if you're going to rely on the grandparents, Be mindful that they're doing this hopefully out of the goodness of their heart. And there may be costs associated with the request to the grandparent. They may not be able to afford those costs. So it's not this cut and dry, should there be or should there not be a fee attached to that, but rather there has to be some flexibility of thought and consideration that goes around the whole family for that. I remember our son, he takes his wife, my wife, we go into his office, he's got a whiteboard, and he literally puts up on the whiteboard pros, cons, issues. And we had a good discussion. He facilitated that. I was so proud of him. But that's what you want to do. You can throw the idea out there. How are you going to make it work in your unique situation? In ours, it happened to work out fine. I happily gave a day's worth of work, as did her parents. They took a Monday, we took a Friday. And as a result, we are so involved in our grandchildren's lives, and they know us and they love us, and we have good relationships. It doesn't work for everyone. If there's been abuse in those relationships in the past, if there are bad feelings, sometimes that can come out through these situations. If your parents, the grandparents, if they talk badly, if they disparage the parents to the children, never, ever a good thing. Because you don't want the grandparents or the babysitters undermining the parental relationship with their own children. And so you have to look at how well does your family function, apart from do you actually need this or not.
What about the expectations? I think some parents really think that they're doing the grandparent a favor by giving them access to the kid. And like, if you don't do these favors for me, you won't have access to the kid. There can be a lot of entitlement. I've seen it before.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. These are all the issues that one has to consider. When the request is made, sit back and we're all triggered with something. Could be a good trigger, could be a bad trigger.
Sure.
Sit back and say, how did this land? And why did it land the way that it did? And are there some issues to be addressed as a result? The things that we had to also negotiate is, what time do we arrive there in the morning? Being an hour's drive away, and they were both starting work by 8:30, and the kids now the kids have to get to school. When we first started, the newborn didn't. So you have to be able to flex around that. We take the baby, and we do their week's worth of grocery, get their groceries. But then the issue was, do we pay for that as the grandparents? Are they expecting us to gift that to them? And I'm sitting back and thinking, no, I'm not spending couple $100 a week on their groceries on top of driving in. So we discussed those things. Happy to do the labor. We're there to help out, which is a wonderful thing, a beautiful thing. But every set of grandparents and parents have to figure out the boundaries, the limits, the expectations.
I think this is sage-like wisdom you're giving us. I really do. What are some signs that a grandparent is being taken advantage of in a scenario like this?
Well, when you're being inconvenienced, when you're asked to do things that's beyond your comfort zone, your capacity, or your financial ability, then you may be reasonably feeling taken advantage of.
And when the kid, the parent, the kid of the grandparent, sorry, I'm a little confusing. When the parent takes a view like, well, if you don't help me out, you won't have access to your grandkids, thereby holding like the grandparents hostage in a way.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? I mean, it's sort of like, well, the kid doesn't belong to me. At the end of the day, it's the parent's child. It's not the grandparent's child. How do you navigate a scenario like that when you want access to your grandkid, but the parents are holding access hostage based on like the favors that you do?
Right. So, we have to look at sometimes the maturity of the adults, grandparents and parents, the maturity of the adults involved. Sometimes it's the grandparents that have maturity. The parents may not have the same level of maturity, or vice versa, or both may not have much maturity in terms of how to present themselves, requests, concerns, and how to resolve conflict. So if you're the grandparent and you have that maturity, you can really be triggered by some of these, by being held hostage, especially. You have to find a way to discuss it without inflaming. Child of mine, sweetheart, love, Bobby, Jill, whatever the kid, however you refer to them. For you to say that causes me to feel uncomfortable. I want to be helpful. I want you to know that from the start. I want to be helpful. What you're expecting of me, this is the distress it will cause me in meeting your expectation. Can we problem solve around how to hopefully meet your needs without creating these problems on my end?
And at the end of the day, if you can't problem solve around it, like if you can't figure out a way forward where the parent isn't holding the grandchild hostage, you gotta it sounds awful, and some grandparents might not want to hear this, but you gotta let go. Like at the end of the day, it's up to the parent how they want to parent their children, even if they're doing it wrong.
Oh, totally. And one of the discussions we had when our daughter-in-law's parents babysit, it's in the in-laws' home. When we babysit, we go to our kids' home. They were working from home at the time. So if the baby made a peep, either parent would come out. Finally, I had to say, guys, if we're babysitting, you have to pretend that you're not here and let us find our rhythm with the grandchild. We're not going to parent exactly how you parent, just like if they were in daycare. So we all have to find that rhythm where we're comfortable. We may not have made the same parenting decisions. And once our kids were, work was over for the day, from my perspective, I hung up my hat. I am no longer providing that direct care. It's the parents who are doing that. You have to understand where those boundaries are and be so respectful of them if you're going to make babysitting the grandparents.
Well, our next boundary is the next break. But Gary, what a pleasure it was having you on the show. Therapy Thursdays on a Wednesday. Gary Direnfeld. Gary, thank you.
All the best.
Summer break around the corner, but in it, emotional upheaval for many children. But there's a simple way to make summer turbulence easier for kids. Kindness. More details after the break.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Don't miss Blinds.com's 4th of July mega sale happening now. Save up to 50% plus get a free professional measure. Blinds.com invented a better way to shop for window treatments with upfront pricing, no showroom markups, and no salespeople in your home. Choose from classic shutters to outdoor shades and more, all backed by our 100% satisfaction guarantee. Don't miss Blinds.com's 4th of July mega sale. Save up to 50% plus get a free measure. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Broadcasting from the neutral zone, where every perspective gets diplomatic immunity. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Summer break brings freedom and sunshine, but also emotional upheaval for many kids. There is new research that shows how simple acts of kindness at home can help children feel grounded, supported, and resilient during a big seasonal shift. Summer break, especially in the post-pandemic world. I'm here with someone who worked on that research. Her name is Amina Yousaf. She's the Associate Head at the Early Childhood Studies Department at the University of Guelph-Humber in Etobicoke, Canada. Amina, what a pleasure it is to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me, David.
Big picture here. I remember as a kid entering summer break and a lot of change, like there's a lot of structure in school and then a lot of freedom in the summer. My brothers weren't the nicest to me growing up, so it wasn't always so fun. It can be a vulnerable time for kids, can't it?
Summer break brings so many different changes, and sometimes we don't always think about them. But with COVID, that has just happened as well. We're seeing that these differences are even heightened. So with that lack of structure, as you mentioned, a lot of uncertainty takes place. Am I going to go to summer camp? Am I going to be home? Are we going on vacation? And these differences are also high for those from disadvantaged communities as well. So absolutely a lot going on with children of different ages, especially with that structure that they have in school. And then once summer starts, it's sort of like, what are we doing now?
What are some of the more specific ways in which kids, maybe from more disadvantaged backgrounds, experience turbulence during the summer? What are some of the kids that you've interviewed or studied been saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say with children who are racialized from marginalized communities, we see some high differences there because they had less access to some resources. And so, those are kids who might not be able to go to summer camp. They may not be able to go into those programs. Maybe they aren't going to get swimming lessons then. And so it's a lot more of figuring it out on the spot. So a lot more of what are we doing today? What are we doing this afternoon? And they may have parents who are working as well. And so figuring out supervision. So it's just a lot more uncertainty for those kids.
So what exactly did your research look into? How to make things a little bit easier for kids going through this turmoil, this emotional upheaval during this time?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I talked about in this article is just with the pandemic that has just taken place, we see a lot of the research out there telling us that there are so many detriments from COVID. But those detriments are still very much here. We see a lot of those impacts still lingering, particularly for children. And those are coming up as summer break comes up as a result of those transitions. And really what we're seeing is that there's uncertainty, there is maybe more screen time, there's more sedentary behaviors, there's more anxious behavior, there may be more mental health problems, some experiencing depression as a result of the lingering of the pandemic. And so really what I focus on here is the importance of social emotional learning. And when we talk about social emotional learning, for those of you who don't know what that is, basically what it is for both children and adults, it's how we develop the skills to essentially understand and manage emotions. It's how we show empathy to others. It's how we maintain healthy relationships. It's even how we make responsible decisions. And so in looking at that importance of social emotional learning, something that's very simple that parents and caregivers can do is be kind. Kindness sets the foundation for social emotional learning. And so in simple acts of kindness, whether it be just through, offering your child a hug that day if they're having a hard time, or maybe labeling what emotions they're feeling at that time, or offering more open play for them that day. It's really those small acts of kindness that's going to contribute to providing a bit more structure, provide a bit more stability, and also contribute to the ways in which they may be coping with all things going on.
I know you just gave a few examples, but kindness, can we define it a little more? It seems vague. Like, is it just being nice? Is it more than being nice? What does it look like in a psychological or developmental sense for children?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say there's no one specific definition. It's very different for each person, but I do want to say what it isn't first. And kindness it's not coddling. It's not about sheltering. It's really about, I would say, creating emotional security that children need to develop, I would say, strong coping skills. And that's probably the best way I can put it. But it definitely is a calling. It isn't to protect children's feelings. And so I want to say it's definitely not that, but it's more so just being more present, being more aware, being more thoughtful and compassionate being more aware of the words that we're using and understanding that those words and actions contribute to how children are going to form relationships as well as develop coping skills.
Kindness is not trapping me in the bathroom or beating me up. I'm looking at you, my brother John, specifically, but this is not a therapy session for me. The phrase emotional regulation comes up a lot in your work. For someone unfamiliar, what does that mean? And how can parents help their kids develop it without sounding like therapists? Emotional regulation, what is it?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say when we're talking about emotional regulation, a lot of it comes down to the ways in which children react to different circumstances or situations that come up. And so if there's maybe a difficult situation, or maybe, as you mentioned, if you're having an argument with a sibling or there's some sort of circumstance that takes place, it's really looking at the way in which the child is responding in those circumstances. And so one of the ways in which parents and children can work with their child to help regulate emotions is through co-regulation. And so if I am interacting with them in a way that shows them that I'm remaining calm, I'm being open, maybe I'm using deep breathing, maybe I'm using a soft tone, I'm being physically present, those are all the different ways in which you can show how to deal with these bigger feelings and bigger emotions.
Can kindness be taught, or maybe even more interestingly, can it be caught? Is it contagious? Like if a parent is kind, will the kid just soak it up? Or is it something you have to really, be intentional about teaching kids?
Yeah, that's such a good question, David. I think that a lot of it is set by parents because they are role models. So I don't know that it's something that's inherent. I would love to think that it's something that's inherent within us and you can naturally be kind. But unfortunately, that's not always true for many people. And us as adults, we see that in the world that we currently live in. So I think adults should be very intentional in the words they're using and their actions. And even when they're having discussions with their children around maybe a situation that took place, just so they're aware of how to be kind and why it's important. Because if we're not really discussing why it's important, then maybe it won't land either. And that will impact the ways in which they act in the future. But it will also have such a large impact on their relationships as well, whether it's with friends or with a partner, with their coworkers or colleagues. It can have so many different impacts. So I think we need to be intentional. And even as adults today, right? We need to be intentional and be kind too. And so with children, I would say it's even more so.
What we're talking about, the jumping off point, is how difficult summer break can be for kids. But a lot of the things you're saying, a lot of the ways in which parents should be kind to kids to help them out, to help them feel grounded, supported. This is good stuff all year round, isn't it? It's not just appropriate during the summertime.
Absolutely. And I love that you said that. I think it's just even more important because it is summer. So sometimes it may not be at the top of our minds as we're with children. It's maybe more relaxed and they have more structure in school. We don't always see them. We see them in the evening time. And so just ensuring that we keep that at top of mind. They are still struggling as a result of the lingering pandemic effects. So just keep that at the top of your mind when you're interacting with them. And I'm sure it will be reciprocated as well.
All right, Brother John, I do forgive you. He's one of my best friends now. He just wasn't nice growing up. All right, Amina Yousaf is an associate head at the Early Childhood Development Studies Department at the University of Guelph-Humber in Etobicoke, Canada. Amina, thanks for going over what you wrote and giving us some of these helpful tips to help with our kids. I mean, I don't have any kids, but if I did, it would be helpful.
Thanks so much, David. That was great.
After the break, we'll cover how being a smarty pants, having a high IQ, doesn't just mean you're good at knowing stuff, but it also might mean you're better at predicting the future than the rest of us. So should we bow down to our smart overlords and let them predict everything for us? Are we doomed if we're bad at standardized tests to forecast what our life will hold? Answers to those questions and more in a few moments.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. The only talk show with an introduction that mentions its own introduction. And that's happening right now in this introduction. The last show with David Cooper.
Begging for a mention. Yeah, you just attention.
What if being a smarty pants and having a high IQ isn't just being good at knowing stuff, but also being good at predicting the future better than the rest of us? Well, a new study suggests that intelligence helps predict life's big twists more accurately. Joining us is Professor Chris Dawson, who's an economics and behavioral science professor. I said professor twice, but that's okay. He works at the University of Bath. Chris, welcome to the show.
Hi, David. Thanks for having me on.
What are you measuring in a study like this? Like, how does someone make better predictions, and how do you study that, and how does it all work? What are you looking into when you do this research?
So, you just ask them to predict various uncertain things. Every single day we come across decisions, choices we have to make with uncertainty, and we have to attach probabilities to these uncertainties and decide if we want to make that choice. So we just ask them, well, in this case, we ask them the probability of living to certain ages, but you could ask them anything, the probability of developing lung cancer, the probability of having a driving accident. You could ask them many things, but yeah, we just ask them. Yeah.
And you found that certain groups of people are good at predicting stuff. And tell me about that group of people.
Yeah, so we found, we got our participants to answer many cognitive tests measuring different aspects of cognition, memory, sort of verbal fluency, many aspects of cognitive ability. And we found people that were better on IQ, which these tests measured when you sum them all together, were actually much better at forecasting accuracy. So they were less wrong when forecasting the future, and in this case, how long they were going to live. And we sort of calibrated how accurate they were by looking at sort of life tables from the Office of National Statistics, which gives you the accurate probability that you will live to this particular age. So yeah, we basically just did that, and yeah, found IQ was a very strong predictor of it.
Now, higher IQ makes us better based on your research at forecasting, fewer forecasting errors. Is this just about brain power, or is forecasting a skill I can learn to help improve my decision making? Or if I score low on an IQ test, I'm doomed to not being able to forecast my own life well?
Yeah, there are many reasons it may happen. Low IQ may be associated with not picking up as much information as someone with high IQ. So you have less evidence to form a probabilistic assessment of something uncertain happening. You may learn less from your environment. Many things, and you may not be able to use that information particularly well to forming probability estimates either. So there's many ways in which it can happen. But of course, this study we find on average IQ matters for forecasting accuracy. So that doesn't mean everyone with a low IQ is bad at forecasting. It means on average that they'll be worse. Yeah.
So if I do poorly on a standardized test, I'm not necessarily as an individual doomed to poor decision making, but on the whole, if I do well on these tests, I'm on average better, is what you're saying.
Yeah, you have a higher likelihood that you'll be a better forecaster, but it's not guaranteed.
Talk to me more about estimation being at the heart of good decision making. Like you mentioned, everyone makes a decision based on probabilities, but we're doing this subconsciously most of the time. Talk to me about this process of estimation.
Yeah, so just think about any choice you make. There are two components of a choice. Firstly, you assess the probability that choice is going to lead to a good or a bad outcome.
Sure.
And then you're looking at, well, if it leads to a good outcome, how much am I going to enjoy this good outcome? If it leads to a bad outcome, you're going to think, how much pain is this bad outcome going to cost me? So it's probabilities and evaluation of how sort of painful or joyful success or failure will be. So 1/2 of every choice relies on probability assessments. And obviously, if they're accurate, they're better. Think about putting on a seatbelt. If you overestimate your ability of driving or underestimate your ability that you're going to be in a crash, you might not put in a seatbelt. If you underestimate your probability of having lung cancer, you may not stop smoking. If you overestimate your chance of being an entrepreneur, you may start a business that you shouldn't and end up sort of leading to financial failure and all sorts of things. So probabilities really, really matter in navigating good choices. Yeah.
It reminds me of something I barely remember from statistics called expected value. It's not just the probability, but it's how good that outcome will be if it happens. Like, I won't play the lottery, even though the outcome would be amazing if I won $1 billion, because I know the likeliness of it is so small. So it's really taking those two factors in to make good decisions, isn't it? Like how good the outcome is or how bad the outcome is versus the probability.
It's exactly expected value theory. You've remembered well. Yeah.
Look, even a broken clock is right twice a day. I'm still definitely an idiot. Could your findings explain why some folks are more likely to fall victims to scams or bad investments or making the same relationship mistakes over and over? Could it be like a cognitive issue rather than a character flaw for some things?
Yeah, I mean, we know that IQ predicts almost everything. Less likely, as you mentioned, to fall for scams, higher incomes, higher wealth. And I think this is kind of a look under the hood, or bonnet, as we'd say in the UK, as to what actually IQ means operationally, what it means for our day-to-day decision making. And part of it is just being well calibrated to our environment, being able to assess probabilities and just make better choices. So that will happen for scams and things like that. Again, that's another probabilistic thing you have to think about. The likelihood that this email that you've received from wherever is legitimate or whether it's not. And it matters.
I would be remiss if I didn't bring up some of the criticisms of IQ tests that I'm sure you've heard many times because you study in this area, but that they very narrowly test, or that some marginalized groups won't do as well because they're really calibrated towards groups that are traditionally hold advantages in society. Is there a way to adjust for that in your studies? And what do you say to criticism like that?
Yeah, so I don't engage too much in that part of IQ research purely because it gathers sort of very strong emotional opinions. Sure. But I'm sort of more on the side that, look, it's the strongest predictor in the whole of psychology that we have of outcomes. So it's pretty good at measuring something.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I, for one, am neutral on this topic as well, but I feel like it's important at least to bring up. I got to ask one silly question because my show wouldn't be my show if not. If someone has a high IQ, should they be trusted to make predictions about like silly stuff? Like who's the first one that's going to die in a horror movie? Or this is what the future is going to look like. Should we be looking at folks with high IQs to tell us about outcomes, sort of like psychics?
I mean, I think the thing is that we can work out realistic probabilities for almost everything. And I think we should be better at telling people what these probabilities are to help them make better choices. So I'm not sure we should just rely on finding high IQ people and listening to them and following them around and making sure that they help us not make bad decisions. I think as with everything, it's always education, helping people make better decisions. And yeah.
Well, if we rely on people with low IQs to make decisions, you end up with what's on the news at 11. So I don't know if that works out as well either. Chris, thank you for talking to me today. I've enjoyed the chat.
Yeah, many thanks. Me too. Thanks, David.
Chris Dawson is an economics and behavioral science professor at the University of Bath in the UK. That's the show. I hope you had a very nice hump day evening. That's Wednesday night. Don't forget the last show is available as a podcast. If you didn't catch the whole program or you're going to miss us on a given night, just head to www.lastshow.pizza. That's lastshow.pizza, not .com. And there you can find out details about our podcast, including how to subscribe. I would like you to, but I can't tell you what to do because I'm not your mother. I'm David Cooper, and this was, well, it certainly wasn't the first show. This much we know. We'll see you tomorrow night.
Big Brother is back.
Let's freaking go!
This summer, the game gets hotter, the alliances get trickier, and the blind sides, brutal.
Just a roller coaster of backstabbing and craziness.
New house guests, new twists, same epic drama.
Bro, I'm gunning for you. You're my #1 target.
Who can you trust when everyone's watching?
Game on, baby.
Big Brother. New season Thursday, July 10th on Global. Stream on Stack TV.